In my opinion, Wanwan has been one of the best marksmen in solo queue for the last few months or so, but you'll rarely hear her name mentioned when asking other players for their top 5 gold laners. Most players will pull up with the usual suspects like 𝗟𝗟𝗡𝗖𝗔𝗟, and that's perfectly fine by me. It's after all, just an opinion. However, many high-ranked players carry the same opinion as I do, and the stats don't lie, with Wanwan being the 5th most banned hero in early season mythic rank and above. So I think there's a strong case for Wanwan being the most OP of the gold laners.
Stop spreading rumors! Seeing, believing!
While Wanwan's main weakness is her extreme squishiness, her main strength makes up for that, which is her insane mobility that is only rivaled by Fanny or Ling. Her passive allows her to hop a short distance after each basic attack, and this is what enables her mobility. Once we get enough attack speed, we can start to hop super fast, and this is faster than a regular hero's move speed with tier 2 boots. This makes her chase and escape potential really high, since most heroes will not be able to chase or escape from her. You'll be seeing how we abuse this mobility throughout the game to chase down enemies, dodge skills, and escape from dangerous situations. Wanwan's passive allows us to hop after basic attacking, and we can do this even without hitting any targets. This is why you're going to see me furiously tapping away at my basic attack button throughout this match. This very unique mobility passive also makes boots unnecessary, since hopping is faster than just walking, therefore freeing up a slot for another item. A very important thing you need to do before playing Wanwan is to make sure you have your settings done correctly. Under your control settings, make sure to turn off moving pursuit for Wanwan. If you leave it on, you may experience some jittering and interruptions when you're basic attacking nearby any enemy targets. Trust me on this, it'll make the entire experience of hopping with Wanwan a lot smoother.
My darts fight! Launch attack!
Wanwan can reveal weakness points on enemy heroes whenever we successfully hit them. There are a total of 3 weakness points, and their angles are relative to our initial position and the enemy heroes. There will be 2 smaller points at the front of the enemy, and a big one at the back. Successfully breaking a weakness point deals some true damage on the enemy, and applies a debuff on them for 5 seconds. This debuff increases Wanwan's damage on them by 10% for each weakness point broken, and this can be increased up to 30% by breaking all weakness points. So it's always ideal to break as many weakness points on the enemy as possible. The hardest weakness point to break is of course the one at the back, and this is usually achieved by using skill 1, which can fire darts from behind the enemy.
You can try to catch me!
The most important stat we need on Wanwan is attack speed. This is because our hopping speed is entirely reliant on how fast we can basic attack. Our ult also fires off more darts with more attack speed, therefore improving its damage. This is why our first item is Corrosion Scythe, which grants the most attack speed of any item in the game. It also applies a slow debuff on any target that we basic attack, helping us to keep them within range as we attack them.
My dark eye has been slain. Stop spreading rumors. Seeing is believing.
Normally, I'll play Wanwan extremely aggressively against most gold laners in the game, as I'm fairly confident I can beat most of them in a fair 1v1 fight. However, with the enemy roamer babysitting and my roamer basically doing nothing, I'm just minimizing my risk and focusing on farming up at this point. Wanwan with items is really crazy strong, so if you don't have the best early game, she can easily make a comeback later on.
Thank you. If only I could be taller.
Wanwan can be built in two different ways, and both are great for their relevant scenarios. Because the enemy lineup consists of mostly squishy heroes, I'll be going for a build with more crit in this match. Crit is stronger against squishy enemies as it has stronger burst potential compared to the DHS build. So for our next item, we'll be building Windtalker for its high attack speed and crit chance. It also has a passive for additional burst damage, which can be triggered more often with our high attack speed. Next, we're building Haas's Claws for even more attack speed and crit chance. It also has lifesteal to provide us with healing from our basic attack damage, helping us sustain during or after fights. Together with Windtalker, we gain a total of 40% crit chance, which means we can trigger crit with around half of our basic attacks for double damage. Casting skill 2 allows Wanwan to remove any CC effects on her immediately, with the exception of suppression, so it removes the need to take Purify as a battle spell. Flicker is also unnecessary since we have sufficient mobility already. This opens up the slot for Inspire, which is a key spell for Wanwan, as it doubles as an offensive and defensive spell at the same time. Casting Inspire boosts our attack speed by 1.5 times for the next 5 seconds, or for the next 6 basic attacks. These attacks will also ignore up to 23 hybrid defense and also heal us. Offensively, this is great to give us a sudden burst of damage and agility, since Wanwan can hop while basic attacking. However, it's also great from a defensive standpoint, since we can still basic attack and hop without hitting any targets. This allows us to retain the attack speed boost from Inspire for the full 5 seconds. As long as we don't use the effect up by hitting enemies with 6 basic attacks, you'll see me maximizing this like a sprint battle spell to escape here. As the enemy lineup mainly consists of physical damage threats that can dive us, our next item is going to be Wind of Nature. This grants us an active ability that can be casted to grant us 2 seconds of physical damage immunity. It also has some attack speed, lifesteal, and physical attack stats that help with our DPS, though it's mainly thought of as a defensive item. Next, we'll be building Malefic gun for the attack speed and its basic attack range extension passive. This extends our reach with our basic attack, allowing us more space between our enemies and letting us hit them from further. The physical penetration is also good for improving our damage, especially if the enemies start to build any physical defense items.
Blind confidence will get you nowhere. My aim initiate retreat. Request backup. Our turret is under attack. Legendary. An enemy has been slain.
With the enemy jungler occupied at the other side of the map and 2 enemies down, I think it's a good idea to solo and take this Lord down by ourselves. Wanwan can do this pretty easily since we built lifesteal to sustain the Lord's damage, and have sufficient personal damage to shred it down on our own.
An ally has slain more. Legendary. Stop spreading rumors. Seeing is believing. Your team destroyed a get you nowhere. Yeah. 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 My aim is impeccable. Launch attack.
Our last item is Rose Gold Meteor, which offers some physical attack, attack speed, and lifesteal as well. However, it's mainly for its defensive utility, as it can grant us a shield whenever our HP falls below 30%, helping us survive near fatal damage. Also, due to us accumulating so much lifesteal stats, we also gain a decent amount of hybrid defense through its other passive, making us a slight bit tankier.
Yeah, stop spreading rumors. Seeing is believing. Yeah. 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 My dark fight. could be taller. Yeah. Yeah. You can try to catch me.
Your team destroyed the turret. Team destroyed the turret.
My darts bite! Wouldn't it be fun to see Wing in a turret?
As mentioned earlier, Wanwan's main weakness is her inherent squishiness, so it's crucial to pick up heroes with high burst damage against her. Ideally, this burst damage should be magic damage as well, since she can just buy Wind of Nature to counter high physical burst. Also, she doesn't have the greatest range, so if you have long range, it'll be a major plus. One hero that comes to mind with such a kit is Fasa, since her ult can basically two-shot a Wanwan from a mile away. Since Wanwan has a CC cleanse with her skill 2, regular one and done CC isn't sufficient to counter her. Therefore, suppression from Franco and 𝗟𝗓𝗟 ults can also be considered counters to her. Another counter that isn't thought of a lot is 𝗟𝗓𝗏, whose ult can lock down Wanwan if she's pinned to a wall. However, without a sufficient counter, letting a Wanwan run wild is basically a death wish. Her high mobility and sustain basically allows her to destroy an entire team, even with just basic attacks, just like what you're seeing in this match.